DJ and PK, it is time for the question of the morning. And it's very simple, straightforward. NBA playoffs or NHL playoffs? Elaine, NHL, exclamation point. Brooks, NHL for sure. Brent, I'm not even sure I'm going to watch any of the NBA playoffs. But go Mammoth. If the Mammoth get eliminated, I'll be watching the NHL and the Stanley Cup. Aaron, is this a joke? The NBA is an embarrassment to what it was 20 years ago. The NHL playoffs are the best there is.
Wonder if he was watching NHL playoffs 20 years ago.
An excellent question. There are people without quite the edge. Brian, I like watching both. Kurt, it's pretty sweet having both at the same time. And then there's David. I'm not watching either one. I'm looking forward to football. Seems like a long way off right now. It'll be here soon enough, but I got at least 4, almost 5 months.
Well, depending on if you're in the into the UFL, you got it today.
Not into the UFL.
That doesn't mean other people aren't.
True story. Matthew, NFL. Yeah, he's waiting for his football. It's true, PK. The NHL playoffs are much more compelling to me because we got a local team in the race, storylines, and people we've been following all year, listening to them talk all year, watching their games. If they're out of the playoffs a month from now, get knocked out in this round or the next one or whatever, I've been watching the NBA more than the NHL my whole life. I'll probably go back to them, but, man, when the Mammoth are playing, that is the priority. It's a priority for work too, but it's just fun to have somebody local in it. It feels like more of a tie. So it has definitely changed my viewing habits.
Well, then you have to ask that, is this an NBA town? Is it a Jazz town? Is it a Mammoth town? Is it a hockey town? Because a lot of people will tell you that they're out on the playoffs in the NBA if the Jazz aren't in it. So that would indicate that for them it's more of a Jazz sport rather than the NBA. And for the same thing, you could ask for the hockey. Is it more of a hockey or is it more of the Mammoth? Or are we still in the honeymoon phase and this is the first time? If we would have gone back, and I don't really know, you get off on these types of things when the Jazz first made the playoffs, when they moved to Salt Lake. Was it a similar feeling? Was it fresh? Was it new? So I'm going to be into it. And then as time goes on, and 20 years later, are you into it as much as you were back then, the first time around? I would imagine that the town was very electric when the Jazz are in the postseason for the first time. And so here we're getting it for the first time. And does that lead to a newness that you can only get for a short span of time? And then if they have 4 first-round exits on that 5th year, would you be into it as much? Remains to be seen if that happens, when it happens. So that's something that can't be answered because it's all into the future.
I wonder as we get more teams, and assuming we get Major League Baseball in 5 years, and they put them in the AL West, will we become more of an event town? I mean, you've already talked about that. Like, we show up for events here, and you hear that in a lot of places. People, it's for people who aren't from L.A., it's fun to bash on L.A. sports fans. But the truth is, if they showed up for everything all the time, and there's always a team, there's always a game. So, of course, they show up for the biggest events and the biggest games because it's nonstop. And it tends to be mostly the Lakers and the Dodgers, maybe a little USC football. They tend to provide the biggest events, they're the most likely to provide the biggest events. Now, you grew up with that in New York, and there's 9 pro teams there, which is part of why colleges get so overshadowed. There's so many pro teams.
Yeah.
So it gets a little bit of a rep as an event town, maybe not the same way as L.A.
Well, my experience living there and then also having just too many family that I can even count that still live there, the postseason is huge for all of them.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that even if the Rangers have a slice or the Devils have a slice, that slice is bigger than everybody else's slice. Yeah. It's like a full pizza because there's so many people that
right.
that they end up taking over. My sister, she moved down to the southern portion, what they call South Jersey, and was a teacher there in her early years and would talk to me when I was a kid living only, 2 hours away, but it seemed like it was a life, just the end of the other side of the world, especially when you're 10, 11, 12 years old. When the Flyers were doing their thing, the Broad Street Bullies and all, man, that's all anybody was talking about. It was just huge, huge for them. And I think that, and they would advance, and they were really good, obviously. And if the Mammoth get to that point, then you get involved in it, man. You can't help but at least have a working knowledge, because the media outlets, that's what they're talking about. The news outlets, they're putting it in the A block and all that stuff. And so if you're just a person who's alive and breathing, essentially, you end up at least knowing, oh, yeah, they're playing. You may not know any of the guys or what have you, or understand the sport that much, but you're aware of it. And playoff, no matter what it is, I think it draws you in. We see that across the board. It doesn't really matter what sport it is. It draws you in. And I would think that, when the Utes were going to the Rose Bowl, they probably had on that very day thousands of people in the state, if not even tens and hundreds of thousands, who hadn't watched a Ute game all year are going to watch that. And particularly in this area where it's colder and it's on in the middle of the day, and what are you going to do? So you turn that on. That's obviously that's a postseason playoff type situation. They weren't calling it the playoff for college, right. But still, it was a big, big deal. And I think even for the casuals, because it just dominates, that you have no choice but to be in. I wonder if it will capture to the level that the Jazz. Now, that's so unfair. It's like one time my father said to me, he moves out to Arizona in the 70s, right? And then just hates every sport, every team, even the Sun Devils. I mean, one time he was on the phone with me, and he told me that one of their running backs, said Larry Centers, he is so overrated. I said, Dad, he plays for the Cardinals. It's impossible to be overrated if you played for the Cardinals. I mean, they sucked year after year in the early years. I said, no. Nobody knows who Larry Centers is outside of a few people in the Valley. The rest of the NFL is not paying a lick of attention to the Cardinals. And then another time, he was mocking the Diamondbacks. They're fans. They don't compare to the Red Sox, blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah. Wow, who knew a team that's 10 years old doesn't compare to a team that's 100 years old? That's shocking in the fan bases. You literally can't have a second generation yet. He would drive me nuts. We'd have these shouting matches on the phone, him being in Phoenix and me being up here. And, of course, we would just take the opposite side and just go at each other. That's the way people are back east. And, my wife, what are you yelling about? I'm not yelling. I'm just talking loud. What are you talking about? I mean, act like we're fighting. But then this is not the way it is. And so for here, how is that going to be as this team, this franchise, gets to the point of multiple generations? And what level of success does it have? And I get it now. If you say, it's like you two with your soccer there. You like to tell us about, and you like to answer. You crack me up with all the questions. And Pablo, you act like you really know the sport. I just ask general questions because I don't know it, but you like to get in the minutia. And what all the columnists who wrote, I'm a girl dad, what they're saying is, I'm so progressive. Look at me. I'm special. Hell, I had a kid who played high school sports as a girl. I didn't run around saying I was a girl dad. Of course I would be. It would be the other way around. Being a girl dad is dog bites man. It's not man bites dog. If you got a daughter who plays sports, of course you're going to be interested. How are you not going to be interested? But all these people, look at me. Aren't I something? I promote and support women's sports. And it's the same thing here with hockey. Look at me. I'm different. You're an NBA fan. Well, everybody's an NBA fan, but not me. I'm special. I'm a hockey fan. How much of that is really in the attempt of get out of the humdrum life to get yourself some separation? Like I talk about all those missionaries who come home. Yeah. I went to fill-in-the-blank European country. I'm hardcore soccer now. Yeah, right. And then you talk for an accent for a few months, and then you get over it. Come on. I've had it. I'm done with it. I want the hardcore. I don't want the casual.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
Tony says, well, I'm not planning to watch either one, but if you're making me choose, give me the NHL every day and twice on Sunday. The NHL is a league that earns respect. Players play every game. They play just as many games as the NBA and zero load management BS. We're witnessing the ultimate death of the NBA.
Well, they do have load management. They play 20 minutes a game.
We had a player last night go 40 minutes on the ice, which was a lot.
That's why you remember it. Because it is a lot.
It is.
Right. And you literally prove the point. That means it's something different. So, yeah, that's.
There's been criticism of NHL players in the past. The Connor McDavid where he plays, 20 minutes of a 60-minute game due to the shifts. Yeah.
That is load management. It's a different form of load management. The NBA should, and I've heard people, national folk, talk about that consistently. I listen to Isola in the mornings. He does the NBA radio, and when I'm flicking around, depending on the time of year, I listen, when it's playoff time, whatever. He's been advocating that for as long as I've had the satellite radio in the car.
40-minute games?
No. That they go out there and play 20 minutes. That's your load management. So instead of playing 35 in one game and you're going to take the game off, play 15 to 20. And that's a form of load management. And then you'd get everybody off your back. That's what didn't make any sense to me with Hi-Ho Silver finding the Jazz because Markkanen and Jackson didn't play in the fourth quarter. If Hardy had just spread out the minutes and it equaled 27, but it was spread across 4 quarters, nobody would have said a thing.
Right.
Yeah, but he just did it in a different manner. And so they still got out there and played, I think, if I remember correctly, one of the two, if not both of them, played over 25 minutes, which is obviously more than half the game. So the NHL is doing that. But, hey, and how much is this political? They're not kneeling and supporting different causes and you have the racial component there. I know that people around here don't want to talk about that, but it deserves at least mentioning. How much of that factors into it?
It's probably a factor, but it was a factor in the NFL, and people seem to get over it. I think a lot of the people are down on the NBA. It's because the Jazz haven't been good for 4 years, and they've been tanking, and it's turned people off. If they're winning in the playoffs, I think people will be watching the playoffs and wondering how far they're going to go.
Well, we'll find that out soon enough.
We should. We should find it out next year.
Yeah, so...
Put this question up again if both teams are in the playoffs, and especially if they're both expected to go about as far. If one team's supposed to check out in the first round and the other team's going to be in it for a couple months, that still probably skews everything. But if they're both in, then what?
Okay, yeah, but then how about when they're both out? I think that's
another one.
That's
what
the
if they were both
bigger
out? What would the reaction be?
Insightful response. If they're both out, not if one is in. Obviously, the one that is in is going to have the fan base being in. It's a question of if one is out and then both is out, whether they go out at the same time or maybe a round apart, I guess. If it were 2 rounds, well, then then one team's in a conference final, obviously.
And there's way more hype.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I do think, to your point about that load management, I wonder if we're starting to see that now. Load management really started with the Spurs, and the way they're playing Wembayama now, he's the Defensive Player of the Year, just got the award, but he's not averaging 30 minutes a game. Now, it's not as dramatic as the 20. Maybe they'll ease their way towards that, but starters have always played 30 to 35 minutes. Sloan was always cutting off Stockton and Malone at 36, and that was a big deal. And now Wembayama, 29. And I think they've done that in 2 of his 3 years. So we'll see how limited they keep him going forward and if that even trends down a little more. But it feels like maybe we're starting to go down that path.
Yeah, but he gets injured and then he comes back. And so what does that number mean? Because if did you go through and look at every game that he played?
I did not.
Right. So you're
I
just
gave you
you're
something to do in the next break. So thanks, PK.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, it could be when he's coming back, he's playing 15 minutes, and then the other times he's playing 33, 34, whatever it might be. And then if a game's a blowout, that's why I don't take numbers at face value and run with them. I never will, no matter how hard you want to push it. What does that mean? I don't know what it means, unless I want to investigate, which I don't. Who cares? Who cares what he does in January? It's what he does in the NBA will always have that as a curse and a blessing. The curse being the regular season is a big ball of crap most of the time, and then in the postseason, it's great. It's as good. And when you get a 7-game series in the NBA or a 6-game series, it's as good as any postseason out there. Because we're already seeing it. We're already seeing like last night with Jokic and Anthony Edwards there. They're getting into it a little bit. And so that's going to continue. And Rudy Gobert didn't get the Defensive Player of the Year, and he gets his feelings hurt all the time. I mean, how many do you need to where if it's defensive play that's going to get you in the Hall of Fame? Well, you're a lock then, and you're making millions of dollars based on your Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, Jordan didn't win MVP. Somebody got to tell Rudy, get over this. But if that's what he needs to fire him up and all that stuff, good for him. Yeah, if that's what I think it's just not that big of a deal. But this series between Minnesota and Denver has an opportunity to be the best first-round series of any.
It's certainly the one that I anticipate the most. These are the two teams that are most evenly matched, and the two teams that are most evenly matched that I think could go deep in the playoffs. I wouldn't think either one of them gets the NBA Finals, but one of them might get to a conference final. Houston and LA have too many injuries, and in the East it seems like there's clear separation between the top four and the next four. Maybe we'll have some massive upset, but it feels like the top 4 teams all ought to advance, and they all should advance pretty comfortably. Obviously, Detroit lost their first game. So, to me, if you're looking for one series, if you're only going to focus on one series in the first round, Denver and Minnesota's it. They've had playoff success before. They could have more now, and it looks like a pretty even series. So,
yeah, I mean, who cares if they don't win the title? That doesn't. I'm into having good times, enjoying competition. There was a Clipper, somebody else series. Was it San Antonio that won 7 a few years back? I was gripped by it. And I don't think either team went to the conference final or went to the NBA final. Maybe they did. I don't remember. And obviously the Clippers haven't.
Yeah.
But it was fun to watch.
So when you're evaluating NBA playoffs versus NHL playoffs, obviously the local team's participation in it or missing it, whatever it is a massive factor in the interest level. And we know all these stories in the NBA, and we've talked about them on the show for years. The NHL stuff is obviously newer. We haven't talked about it nearly as much. Are there any storylines across the league that intrigue you a little bit? Anything you're buying into now that we've had 2 years of the NHL here?
I am so into the Mammoth that, for me, I need more time. I'm not going to pretend that I have all sorts of answers and I'm hardcore. I'm not going to fool people. I'm going to tell it like it, I'm going to give them the truth as I see it. I was into it 30-plus years ago when I had to be. And since I moved up here, I didn't have to be. And it slid off the radar for me to a large extent. Get to the finals, yeah. So the point being is I haven't followed the league enough to look at it and say, oh, yeah, this team versus that team, they've got a history, blah, blah, blah. I can look at scores and pretend, but I'm not going to do that. On the flip side, it's the Mammoth. Because I worried about it. Oh, man, how am I going to get up to speed on the Mammoth? And I knew of them a little bit because of friends and family from the Phoenix area, so it wasn't a complete start from scratch. But at the same time, I discovered after the first 10 games, I pretty much had the storylines. All you got to do is really watch the team 10 times, which I did last year, and listen to Torney speak, and then you get an idea of what he's going to say. Listen to Armstrong speak. You're going to get an idea of what he's going to say, and then you're good to go. I felt like, okay, I'm ready to go. I still have a long way to go on the league. It's the same thing with soccer. I'm not going to pretend that I know all these guys from Miami and whatnot. I don't. That's not really what I'm paid to do. If I was paid to understand that and be an expert on the MLS, I would be. But I just watch the local team.
I think the two storylines in the NHL I find most intriguing because they line up with other storylines in other sports, and so it's pretty familiar and it's pretty easy to grasp. The NBA story about this excellent player, whoever it is, whatever generation, but he doesn't have a championship, right? And that's the Edmonton story. They got Connor McDavid. They got Draisaitl too, and those two guys are awesome. If you can only name 5 players in the league, you can probably name those two, but they haven't won. And the fact they're trying to do it in Edmonton, which is a smaller market, I mean, for Jazz fans, that's an easy
but that's the NHL. There's
see.
Tons of small markets in the NHL.
And the other one is Buffalo. 15 years. We all know about the Bills' agony in the NFL playoffs, and the Sabres 15 years removed from being in the playoffs, and they finally get there. And they turned it around with the Josh Doan trade, who's like the first guy you told me about when the stories about Arizona are coming. Josh Doan, because his dad was a legend, and now here comes the kid and the expectations and all that kind of stuff. And then he goes in the Paterka deal to Buffalo, and they just turn things around in a heartbeat. So.
See, but the thing that got me confused is you asked me if there were any stories in the league that I was following, and I told you essentially no. I never asked you, but you told us anyway.
Yep, I did. We had 2 minutes to go until break.
Watch me ask you a question, so therefore I can add mine.
That's all that was. You weren't interested in my answer.
As a matter
You're
of
just
fact,
waiting
I
for
was.
me to stop talking so you could tell me I follow the NBA or the NHL. I'm a girl dad.
Nope. I just told you I don't follow it. Those are two storylines that line up with the Jazz and the Buffalo Bills. 2 minutes till the break, PK. If I don't say something, you're like, I got to stand over and carry it. I got to keep talking. I'm carrying your dead weight. You just complain. You complain coming and going, man. That's the beauty of you. It's 7:43. What will PK complain about now?
7:46. What are you talking about? Get
Well,
your
it is because
clock
I had
up
a
to
couple
date.
minutes on what I thought. Yeah.